Hey everybody, and welcome to Malt Muser Whiskey Reviews. I am Eric. On the bar for today, single malt Scotch, Springbank, 15 years old. As always here on the channel, you can expect a nose taste finish review of this whiskey. I will give you my final thoughts, final score, tell you a bit about that value, and leave you with a malt musing. But first, a bit about Springbank itself and this 15-year-old single malt. So Springbank Distillery, located in the Campbelltown region of Scotland. Once an area that was home to dozens of distilleries in the 20th century, there are now only 3 operating there, with Springbank probably being the largest and most well-known. As for the whiskey itself, this 15-year-old whiskey is non-chill filtered, natural color, 46% ABV. Springbank is probably known as being still one of the most old craft style distilleries. They do everything in-house, from malting to the bottling. And this bottle itself is 100% sherry. So this has been all sherry cask for 15 years. They do 2.5 distillations of their whiskey, and it's lightly peated. So that is the rundown on Springbank 15. This bottle itself, a little bit of an older labeling. This is from a 2016 release. They did change their labeling just a couple years ago. So it is a much brighter green. Anyways, that's the rundown on Springbank 15. Let's get this in the glass. All right. Here's that color. Okay, let's go in for the nose. Complex, sweet, little smoky, little oaky. So you're getting some sweet, some spice. A lot of complexity in the nose, you can tell. Very characteristic of Springbank malts in that sense. There's a bit of vanilla. There's a bit of citrus. Really interesting nose. Springbank is known for using dunnage warehouses to do the maturation. So all of their barrels are sitting in warehouses that usually have earth and dirt floors. So, there's some that say that does bring some effect to the whiskey. And I think Springbank, which has a little bit of a funkiness unique to its distillate, comes through a bit here on the nose. It's almost like, walking into an old warehouse or something like that, damp basement kind of thing. Really nice. Okay, let's give it a taste. Let's launch it. Really rich, sweet. You get a lot of fruit notes up front, but as it develops, it just goes in a bunch of different directions. There's a little bit of a toffee peanut note. Cinnamon, yeah. Another kicked up, really bright red, sweet fruit note comes in. There's a little bit of spicy pepper note. Again, that kind of funkiness is going through it, and the finish goes into a nice kind of creaminess. It's almost like a little nutty, almond. There's some saltiness to it. Pretty medium long finish here. Yeah. This is an interesting whiskey for sure. A lot of complexity going on here. Okay. I'm going to put a bit of water on it. Wow, there's even an herbal note coming out too. Grassy. Really interesting. So a bit of water. This is 46%. So non-chill, so we'll start seeing some of that Scotch mist come through here. Oh, wow. So with water, it kicks up that musty funkiness. Oh, it's great. Again, a little bit of that smoke is there. Very light. You're starting to get more of the barley notes. Just that. fresh, a bit more confectionery now too. You know, like thinking kind of sweet candy, cherry. But the dominant thing here is really this really heavy kind of mustiness. It just smells old. Here's maybe a bit of citrus too. And again, some kind of maritime almost. A little saltiness. Wow. A whiskey like this, I think if you let it sit out long enough, it's going to take dominant notes are going to go in all sorts of different directions. We don't have too much time for that. Instead, let's give this another taste. Wow. Luscious fruit notes. Coats the whole mouth. And it really evolves on the palate. I mean, this, for 100% sherry, it doesn't have a lot of the dry notes. It's much more fresh fruit. But as it develops, these kind of dry honey, toffee, like I mentioned, kind of like a nutty note, really come in and start balancing with that fruit. Again, you get a little bit of a dark chocolates and some spice as it goes into the finish. And again, it's a really nice long finish. It's almost kind of like a vanilla cream, maybe some milk chocolate, a little bit of darker fruit. This is really impressive. I'm gonna have to have one more sip. Man, oh man. Okay. So, bottle of Springbank 15 here in the United States is going to run you around $120 to $140. And you'd be saying that is a lot of money for a 15-year-old, and you'd be right. With prices that have been going up, especially here in 2020, Springbank is one of the places where their stuff is getting a bit more expensive. This is not, however, really an exclusive whiskey. If you find it in a good whiskey shop in your neighborhood, in your community, you should be able to find a bottle of this. I'm going to put the value kind of at a medium high, just because despite that high cost, I think what you're getting here, the complexity and stuff, is really worth seeking out, especially if you like a lot of sherry. So final thoughts, Springbank 15. This is an incredibly good whiskey. You have to tip your hat to the fact that they have not bowed to market pressure over the years and started kind of outsourcing some of the work on their whiskeys. They have never added color, chill filtration. You know, I think that they're a model of what Scotch whiskey should be like. And this 15-year-old, if you're a big sherry fan, you're going to really enjoy this, but it does have some of those unique Springbank notes, as I was mentioning. I wouldn't say this is a beginner whiskey. Springbank does offer a 10-year-old, which I believe is ex-bourbon. Also really good, much cheaper. But if you're somebody who's had some Springbank stuff, you know what you're getting into, you know, you've had a couple different sherried whiskeys. I think Springbank 15 is one you're going to have to try. And I'd actually say you need to get yourself a bottle of it pretty much as soon as you can. My final score here for Springbank 15 is going to be a 4.25 out of 5, which means that I recommend you go get yourself a bottle of this right away. Stellar stuff here. And I will note that with Springbank, and with others to some degree, but I think even more acutely with Springbank, you will get a bit more batch variation. So as I mentioned, this bottle is from 2016. They do put a date scan on it. They do have some with a newer label, but I've heard good things about those as well, so you can buy those with confidence. Okay, 4.25 out of 5 for Springbank 15. And with that, I will kick you over to your malt musing. If you've yet to, do hit subscribe. It'll make sure you don't miss any of my whiskey reviews, which come out every Friday. And I also do a live happy hour, 8 p.m. Eastern on Tuesdays, so I'd love to have you there too. With that, here's your malt musing, and I'll catch you next time. Cheers.